the mainstream, the studio machine. I want it my way. Indie Film Nation. I want it my way. Indie Film Nation. Going all the way. Indie Film Nation. You know it's gotta be. Indie Film Nation. Indie Film Nation. It's gotta be Indie Film Nation.
Well, it was a violent night in Chicago. 9 people were shot in just 5 hours.
124 people have been killed so far this year, about the number of Americans killed during the same period in Iraq and Afghanistan combined.
Violence is like the great infectious diseases. We're using the methods that are used for reversing any epidemic.
Hi, Sue Lawson here for Indie Film Nation. Joining me today is Steve James, who is the creative genius behind so many things, including Hoop Dreams, the War Tapes, most recently here at Sundance, The Interrupters. Steve, what gave you the idea for the film?
Well, the idea really came from my partner in the film, Alex Kotlowitz, who's an award-winning author. He writes for the New York Times Magazine, and he did a piece on Ceasefire and The Interrupters back in 2008. And Alex and I have been friends for years, so I called him up and I said, we've been wanting to do a film together. What about this? And so he liked that idea, and so we pursued the film based on his article.
What was there about it that made you say, yes, I want to be involved with this particular one?
Well, I think, actually for both of us, Alex wrote this book, There Are No Children Here, which is like this landmark nonfiction work about kids growing up in Henry Horner homes in Chicago. In the years since he wrote that book, he lost people, and that were people he got to know in the course of writing that book. For me, 2 of the main people from Hoop Dreams have been murdered since that film was made. William's older brother Curtis and Arthur's father Bo, both murdered. And I saw the sort of impact that violence had on both those families. And it's just, it seemed like this was an opportunity to try to address something that's been a real problem in Chicago and a lot of cities for decades.
Because Ceasefire itself, it's not just in Chicago. They're in a lot of major urban areas as well, correct?
Yeah, they've been able to export their model to a number of cities. They're going into Kansas City now. They're in Baltimore. They're in New York now. They're even abroad. They're putting programs in places like parts of Iraq and South Africa. So it's a model that I think can be applied over any number of situations, not just urban violence. Our focus is on urban violence because that's where we live, and we think it's a real legitimate problem that people had begun to kind of feel like there was nothing to be done about it, a sense of hopelessness about it. And I think one of the reasons to make this film was to show that there is something that can be done about it, and there is hope.
Now, the organization itself, one of their main ways of doing business, if you will, is that they are having people who were on the street themselves who are acting as the interrupters, if you will, because they have street cred. Yeah. There's a level of trust that's already been established. As a filmmaker, how difficult was it for you to establish that same amount of trust?
That's a great question. I think the key to this kind of filmmaking is trust, and you have to get to a point with your subjects where they understand really clearly what you're doing, why you're doing it, and trust you, and you become friends. I mean, because you're going to spend a lot of time with each other, and so that allows them to open up about what they do and their past, and you see that very much in this film, but it also extends to the people that they're mediating crisis with. Because if we show up with Kobe, for instance, and Kobe is dealing with a situation, and these people know who Kobe is and trust him, and Kobe says, these guys are all right, and kind of tells them what we're doing, we're not the cops, we're not, the TV news station, then that's how that you're able to capture those kind of moments.
In the film, when I'm watching, it seems as though there are times that seemed a little touchy, as though perhaps there could have been danger for your crew.
Yes, I mean there were some dicey situations, but I think that for the most part, even though we might have felt that, we always felt really protected because you have to understand, Kobe, Amina, Eddie, they have such tremendous respect in their communities, and they're also very, very smart about this, and they're also very careful about how this goes down. And there were certain situations that we would have liked to have filmed that they said, no, this one doesn't smell right. I think you should stay back on this. So, I think we always felt like we were in good hands,
What was the process just for identifying Kobe and the others to begin with?
Well, we identified a few interrupters early on that we really wanted to focus on, and Amina was one of them, as one of only 2 women interrupters in the program, and with her charisma, I mean, right, you'd have to be a fool not to want to put her in the movie. We had other interrupters that we were interested in focusing on who were great and do a great job, but it didn't work out for whatever reason. They felt shy about the cameras or hindered by the cameras in the work they would do. Kobe kind of emerged. He would call us up and he'd say, hey, this is Kobe. I've got a situation. I think maybe you guys could film. He'd describe it and we'd be like, well, heck yeah, let's go film that. And so he kind of organically made himself a part of this film. And we were so thankful for it because some of the most amazing sequences in the film are through his mediations. And then with Eddie, we knew we wanted to have a Latino interrupter in the film and to represent that community and the issues in that community. And Eddie, again, was a guy that is very quiet and sort of at the table. He's not a big talker, but we really got a strong sense of his inner strength and his story. We really feel like his role in this movie is not just to see him mediating and see the creative ways he does it through his painting, but it's his story as a guy who committed the ultimate act of violence and is still grappling with that. And I think that's a big part of what you see in the film.
Were there surprises for you when it came to documenting this?
Oh, yeah, countless surprises. I mean, I think, I've been around people that have served time in prison for various offenses and stuff. But, if you met Eddie on the street or the way you encounter him in the movie, I don't think in a million years you would ever think that he was someone who had, committed murder, because he doesn't seem to be that guy anymore. And Kobe, his wife calls him a nerd in the movie. People didn't call him a nerd back in the day, although he was still a guy that was a jokester who was fun to be around, but he was serious business. And so I think one of the things that was a surprise was coming to the realization that these folks who once had these reputations well earned were different people now. And then we kind of realized, well, maybe it's not that they're different people. Maybe they're just who they always wanted to be now, and that they never could be. And that was a real epiphany for us. And then I think the other thing is that we went into this film expecting it to be, pretty tough sledding and depressing. And it certainly, the film has those elements in it. But we came out the other end inspired by the work and inspired by the possibility of change, because you see through some of the people they encounter, that our interrupters encounter, you see that people do change and can change and want to change.
There's a marvelous sense of hope that the film fills you with.
Yeah, and that's not something we expected. And frankly, I think when you read about the film, it's not something going into the film that people might expect. But that's what you come out with. And I don't think for a minute it's not earned. In other words, we're not trying to layer some sort of false sense of hope over a dire situation. I feel like the film is incredibly candid and honest and clear-eyed, but what you come out with is a sense of hope.
Now, it runs over 2 hours, but my sense is that there are still things that you left on the cutting room floor that you wish that you could have somehow still gotten in there, if you could manage that time-space continuum.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is a long film, but we feel like it's a film that has a lot to say, and if you really want to see people change, you have to really let things play out. You need to see people here when they're in their moment of rage, and then you need to see them later when they're in a moment of reflection, like with this guy Flamo that you meet in the film. And then down the road, he's got a job. And so, the film is a broad canvas. And sure, there's a lot of stuff we would have liked to have put in the film. But I think we feel like the film that's here at Sundance right now really says kind of everything we wanted to say. And we'll just have a lot of great scenes on a DVD extra.
Something to look forward to. In fact, I always look forward to that aspect. Now, how long was it in the making for you?
This film really was about 2 years in the making. Very intensive process. About a total of 14 months of shooting and the rest in editing. And that was overlapped, because we could never have cut this film in, 6 or 8 months from start to finish. But for me, that is an extremely short period of time given the breadth and ambition of this film. I mean, Hoop Dreams, we shot less footage on Hoop Dreams over 4.5 years than we shot in 10 months on this film.
How much footage did you have for this?
We have over 300 hours.
Wow, that is a lot. That is a lot. That's a lot. But it was valuable. It was all valuable footage, and I think that's amazing. Now, on the technical side of things, what did you shoot on?
We shot on EX3, Sony EX3 camera, HD, on cards. So this was my first tapeless production. I was really worried about going in about that, but it really worked out terrifically well.
And your post work was done?
We're Avid, yes. We did Avid. We had myself and Aaron Wickenden on 2 different systems editing at some point. Aaron came on much earlier while we were shooting and editing to start the editing. And then we finished the film picture at Nolo, a company that have a great long-standing relationship with, and I think they do terrific work. And then the sound mix is done by a great company called Vagabond that I used on my last film.
Wonderful. The picture, again, is called The Interrupters. It's here at Sundance. If people want more information on it,
they should go to theinterrupters.com. They can also go to cartemquin.com and find their way to our specific website. And the great thing about going to cartemquin.com is you can see all this other extraordinary work that Cartemquin has been doing for the last 45 years.
I didn't realize it had been that long, but it is it is an amazing catalog of work, and once again, an amazing film. What are your plans for distribution?
Well, we're hopeful to get it out into theaters. I think we feel like it's going to have a vigorous festival life, and then eventually it will it'll be on Frontline on PBS.
Wonderful. Steve James, Sue Lawson, Indie Film Nations here at Sundance. Thanks.